I'd like to welcome everyone. Today, our discussion is going to be about politics, women and politics in Syria, Iraq, and Quebec. Je vais essayer de parler en français, anglais et arabe en même temps, juste une petite présentation. It's going to be interesting because we know that the community, some of them speak English, some of them speak Arabic, some of them speak French. So we are going to try to have a nice dialogue between the three languages. Alors, les dialogues, ça va être en français, anglais et arabe. On va essayer de faire une traduction, mais pas vraiment, comme un sommaire. So, راح تكون النقاش بالعربي انجليزي فرنسي ونحاول نعمل شويه تلخيص للموضوع لانه صعب نترجم ترجمه كامله. Alors, we would like to welcome you all. This is the second time we do an activity like that to bring the three different cultures and try to see a dialogue and to bring the three cultures together, and then it will help understand each other, and maybe in the future we'll have more cultures. Alors, c'est tout.
Bonsoir tout le monde. أنا من طرفي تحكي بالفرنسي. Je vais vous présenter par la suite nos invités. Donc, pour commencer, et sans entrer dans les statistiques, on parle que la moitié de la population mondiale, ce sont des femmes, c'est des féminins. Pourtant, est-ce que c'est vraiment vrai؟ هل صحيح أنه 50% من الناس هن المرأة تشكل 50% من العالم؟ Ce n'est qu'en 1977, en 1970, que les Nations Unies ont consacré pour la première fois une journée spécialiste, une journée spéciale internationale des femmes, اللي هو le 8 mars, اليوم العالمي للمرأة. La femme, pour la première fois, elle va avoir une partie des droits des élections ou de vote. C'était en 1901 en Australie, une partie de l'Australie, bil 1901. Aux États-Unis en 1909. Et si on recule dans l'histoire, c'est le Suède en 1718 et la Corse, avant qu'elle devienne française, c'est en 1755. Si on regarde dans l'histoire, ni Rome antique, ni la Grèce avaient le droit de vote. C'est presque la femme n'avait pas de droit, selon les historiens. Ce soir, on va soulever ensemble, découvrir l'histoire avec le Québec, l'Irak et la Syrie. Et je vais vous présenter mes invités. Nous avons Madame Sue Montgomery, mairesse de l'arrondissement Côte-des-Neiges Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, NDJ, journaliste bien connue à la Gazette pendant 30 ans, militante pour la justice sociale. Elle a remporté un prix prestigieux de Judith Jasmin en 2009 et elle a eu aussi en 2014, elle a été nommée la femme de mérite par la fondation Y Femmes de Montréal. Bienvenue Madame Zou. Madame Alquzweny de l'Irak, titre chimiste. Elle a un master spécialiste en ingénierie de l'environnement, artiste, femme d'affaires, multidisciplinaire, écrivaine. Elle écrit aussi des poésies. Bonsoir Madame Alquzweny. Madame Gulnar Mousa, femme d'affaires d'origine syrienne. Elle est architecte, mais surtout activiste, féministe Elle est très impliquée avec toutes les activités communautaires à Montréal, dans la grande région de Montréal, et surtout, elle est impliquée pour promouvoir la démocratie canadienne parmi les nouveaux arrivants. Merci. Comment ça marche ce soir? On va donner pour chaque invité environ 15 à 20 minutes. Ils vont parler du passé, du Québec, l'Irak et la Syrie, du présent, le futur et les défis. كيف بده يصير الحديث؟ رايحين كل واحد يحكي عن كيبيك، عن العراق، عن سوريا، في الماضي، الحاضر، المستقبل والتحديات. وطبعا عم نحكي عن دور المرأة في الانتخابات أو حق التعبير أو ممارسة الديمقراطية. Et je vous laisse la parole, Madame Sou.
Est-ce qu'on a besoin d'un micro ou oui? Ah oui, ok. On a mangé un bois.
Is it? Yeah. I don't know, but before that, is it better in English or?
I don't know. I was just going to ask, how many people understand English?
Arabic.
Okay, I'm a bit rusty on my Arabic. You understand 3. Okay. How many understand English? Oh, a lot. How many understand French? So, it's mélange. I think English is more prominent, right?
Yeah, it's better.
And does anybody not understand either? Obviously, you wouldn't understand the question. But if you only speak Arabic, I think there's one woman that I met on, not you, the woman in the back I met on the elevator, and I don't think she, so maybe someone can translate.
Okay. And just to also, because the ambassador of Iraq
Yes.
just arrived, so I
Yes.
would like to welcome our ambassador of Iraq. He came from Ottawa just for that.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you like us.
Yeah. You don't have something better to do on a Friday night?
You'd like to meet us.
Although Ottawa is pretty boring on a Friday night. Montreal's more interesting. So, where to begin? I never thought I would become a politician. In fact, I've never liked politicians because I was a journalist for many years, and so my job was always to criticize politicians. And I never liked covering them because I felt that they never really were real people. They didn't really say anything. They would, talk like nobody else talks, like just not answering questions. And so I found them very frustrating. And I also was not drawn to politics because it's very much a man's world. So I didn't see women, I didn't see people in politics that I could relate to. I just saw men, white men, speaking in a way that didn't feel authentic to me. So for many years I was a journalist, and in 2014 I left the Montreal Gazette because the paper was not doing very well, and I decided I wanted to leave. So I took a package and left, but without any plan. And the NDP asked me, would you like to run federally? And I said, okay, I don't really know anything about it, but so I was in the nomination for Westmount NDG. We were 8 people, and I didn't win the nomination, thank goodness, because the NDP did very badly. But it was a very good experience. I experienced the backstabbing of politics. I experienced, it was a good experience, it was a bad experience. But I thought, okay, now I'm done with politics. I've had my little experience, I can check it off, I'll do something else. So then in 2017, the spring of 2017, Valérie Plante called me up to have coffee with her. And I said to my husband, oh, I know what she wants. She wants me to run for Projet Montréal. So I said, I don't think I'm going to go. I don't think I want to do this. So my husband said, oh, just go, have coffee, you never know, you don't know what might come of it. So this is what's come of it. I have become a mayor. So I had coffee with her and she said, we want you to run as mayor of Côte-de-Neiges-NDG. And I said, do you know me? Like, I am not a politician. I speak my mind. I am very opinionated. I'm very outspoken. I'm not a politician. And she said, yes, that's why we want you, because we want authentic people. So I said, okay, I'll run. But don't try to change me, because I'm not going to be a politician. I'm not going to play politics. I don't even know how to play politics. I'm just going to be myself. So that's the kind of politics I like to do. Surprisingly I won. Like, they thought Russell Copeman would win because he's been a politician all his life, but I beat him. And in fact, it took me about 2 weeks to realize that I had won. Like, I would wake up every morning thinking, what just happened? Like, I am the mayor of Côte-de-Neiges-NDG, so I blame my husband because he's the one who said, go and have coffee with Valerie Plante. So I say it's your fault that I'm in this. No. But I have to say, I really, really like it. I love our borough. I love the multiculturalism. I love how diverse it is and the challenges, and I really think that we can be an example for many other boroughs in this city. As you know, Quebec has a real issue with racism, and I think that this is something that we can I would say, overcome in our borough, because I see a real willingness among all the communities to get together and to understand each other, and basically that's what it is understanding each other. The history of women in politics in Quebec, I mean, surprisingly, women didn't get the vote here until 1940. It was very late. But on the other hand, I would say it's one of the most feminist provinces in Quebec, most progressive in terms of women. No other province has subsidized daycare like we do. I would say that as a woman, it's a good province to live in, but also to be a politician in. Now, in City Hall now, of course, Valerie Plante was the first mayor in 375-year history. I know 375 years doesn't seem very old when you're from Iraq or Syria, but Montreal is 375 years old, and that was the first woman. So a huge step forward for women. Plus, we have parity. There are more women in City Hall now than there are men, by about, I think, 2 representatives. So, and I really do, as a woman politician, feel that there is a change. There's a sea change in terms of attitude, in terms of being taken seriously, in terms of being listened to. It's still a problem with men. There's a sign back there about if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. So I find in the meetings, it's excruciating. Men love to hear, no offense to the men here, but men tend to love to hear themselves talk. And it's just like, I know I'm talking a lot now, but it's like, make your point and then sit down. But I find in meetings, they interrupt, they talk over me, they'll, and I'm not an easy person to talk over, but they do. And so I've had to have some real serious conversations with men in our party saying, stop interrupting me, stop mansplaining, stop talking over me. But they've never had anyone tell them that. So, because we, as women, we tend not to want to rock the boat, so we let them take their space, and instead of confronting them and saying, let me speak. So that's one thing that I see. The other thing that I see, though, is, when you're a woman politician, you look at things differently, and you can make policies based on gender also, like through a gendered lens. So one of the things our borough is doing, for example, is we've offered a subsidy for cloth diapers. So you can, if you buy cloth diapers, or if you buy secondhand cloth diapers, or if you make your own cloth diapers, we will give you a subsidy. And I'm not sure men would have come up with that policy. Like, it's like, you know, it's getting better. Men are changing diapers more and more, but they wouldn't really think of that. Yeah, some men might not know how to change a diaper, but so I don't like to generalize when it comes to gender, but I do think that we can bring a gendered lens to things. And one of the things I really want to do is, in terms of transportation in our borough, I would love to get women, especially immigrant women, riding bicycles. And I know that sometimes it can be a class thing in other countries where only poor people ride a bike or walk. Like, having a car is seen as, you know, prestigious. Well, I haven't owned a car since 1989. I ride my bike everywhere. I take public transit. And I just find that it's a cheap form of transportation. It's healthy, and it's good for the environment, and it gives you a form of freedom. Like, if your husband's bugging you, you just get on that bike and you go for a ride, and you feel much better. You can come back to the house, and he'll have the diapers changed, the laundry done, and dinner ready. So, the last point I'd like to make, I don't know if you're timing me. 2 minutes. 2 more minutes. Okay, so I'll just wrap up by saying, I never thought I would be a politician. I never thought I would like being a politician, but I actually really like it. And I like it more than I thought I would. And at the municipal level, it's a level where you can actually make changes in people's lives. You can help with housing, with transportation. I mean, I know a lot of people complain about the snow. There's not a lot I can do about that. But, you know, when people have issues, especially new arrivals to Canada, I really like to help. And I feel that that's one of the great things about my job, is that I can do that. So I would encourage more women to come forward. As we've talked about in our party, we want to diversify. We want people from other cultures. Right now we're very white, Quebecois or Anglo. So if any women here are interested, please step into the ring.
Yeah. Thank you.
دليل متأخرين مدام مونغومري هي الميريس الأرونديسمون كوت دي نيج et نوتردام دو غراس. بنرحب بسيادة سعادة السفير موجود معنا العراقي وبكل الناس اللي وصلوا متأخرين. Une bonne nouvelle pour les élections cette année, la moitié des candidats sont des femmes. تقريبا نص المرشحين للانتخابات حاليا للأسامبلée nationale البرلمان في كيبيك هن من النساء. Donc on passe le micro à madame Alquzweny من العراق.
So I have to welcome everybody of you here, and honestly, because I didn't participate in anything in politics besides the referendum '95.
How did you vote? No, just kidding.
I was like all over the street.
You don't have to.
We know, we don't have
I felt like whatever. I lost the country. I don't want to lose the other one.
Exactly.
But when Halashi approached me regarding doing this night, honestly, I didn't know where to start, because history is not my piece of cake normally. So I went through books and I wrote about it, because it's very far from my specialty, women in politics. And I reached a conclusion very, very interesting. I'm gonna cut it short. I'm gonna give you the conclusion before I'm gonna go through whatever I found in the history of Iraq. As you said, how could you, when she told me we have to compare, find a link between Quebec and Iraq, I said, how could I do that? How could you compare 10,000 years to less than 400 years? It's uncomparable. Then, how could I manage to compare the women in Iraq lived in 30 years of war and over, and with the women of Canada, and Quebec especially, it's incompatible. So it's incomparable, it's incompatible. But guess what? When I go through history, I found something very interesting. Women are women all over the world. Men are men. So you can't fly until you have two wings. Ancient civilization in Iraq, 10,000 years ago, it's exactly 8,000 years ago, before they discovered the ring, they were the cavemen, so they go hunt outside, and the woman has inside job to do. So the specialty, definitely, whoever give you the food, he gonna rule. So it was a man work. Till the smart woman discovered agriculture. That was 8,000 years old in a cave. They found it in north of Iraq, in Mosul, where Allah came from. Definitely she loved food. Yeah, I know. So, guess what? She became the queen. Why? Because she supplied the food, and plus she gave birth. So they make her a goddess, and they worship her. Then we went through civilizations. The conclusion of civilization, because the women, elderly people, and the children are the most vulnerable pieces of the chain of life. So whenever you have war, the first one to break is women, children, and elderly people. All these civilizations, which is a mutual between everything that I found, very interesting. As long as it's a build-up civilization, it's gonna be without a border, because they are expanding. As long as they are expanding, they need the army. So who's in role, who's in charge now? Men. So as long as there is wars, the role of a woman comes down, the role of a man comes up. The most important thing is the borders. The minute you set the borders, you concentrate inside, you see that we're gonna get to a point we balance. That woman abused because of the war and the I don't want to say aggressivity, but they treat women as a thing till they reach the point, they know how important women in the role of life, so they reach the point that they need to fly together, and you know, women always, their muscle and their brain, so they get over after a while, till they climb again and again and again in each civilization, till they reach the top, and we have queens in all the ancient civilizations. Very interesting. So I want to tell you something about the link that I found between Iraq and Canada, which is, in Canada, they set the border, they have their fight, long time ago, 176 years old. They had the fight, they put the borders, and what? Guess what? They concentrate inside. Definitely at the beginning, they abused the women, till lately, till the 70s, as I know. And now, since the 70s till now, women start to climb up, but because it's like this civilization is like a XY relationship, it's a straight going up. So soon we're gonna see you the Prime Minister of Canada. Yes,
God help me.
We're gonna be very proud of you. In our nations, in Iraq, what I see is it's like a sine-cosine relationship. It goes with the civilization, the role of a woman. It wins up and down and up and down. So I'm gonna go through after historically, but now definitely we need to translate a bit to a French.
J'ai une demande spéciale de traduire juste des phrases très importantes que Mme Alquzweny a soulignées. Tant et aussi longtemps qu'il n'y a pas de frontières dans toutes les civilisations, dans toute l'histoire, quand on n'a pas des frontières, quand on n'a pas une stabilité, il n'y a pas un rôle pour la femme. Pourquoi? Parce que l'arme, c'est entre les mains de l'homme, et c'est l'homme qui maîtrise tout. C'est à partir du moment où on a une stabilité géographique, on a des frontières, à ce moment-là, la femme peut avoir son rôle dans la société et sur tous les niveaux. Est-ce qu'il y a des questions dont vous pouvez adresser directement? Même la femme, à ce moment-là, elle peut devenir une reine, une princesse. Elle a tout le pouvoir dans un pays avec des frontières. Merci.
So, that norm goes from the ancient civilization, which is the Babylonian, the Assyrian. You can't hear them? They can't hear well. You can. Okay.
Far from your voice. I mean, far from your mouth. It's echoing.
Okay. So the Assyrian and the Babylonian, they treat women at the beginning, because they are the ancient civilization, the woman as a thing. They sell her. They give her away. Till a certain age, they set their border, and she climbed, and I can see in the civilization, which is one of the, they mention it as the worst civilization to treat a woman is the Assyrian. But look how smart she is. After a while, after it settled down the border and prosperity began, women climbed. We had the Queen Semiramis. Semiramis, she ruled with the husband for 42 years, and after her husband for 5 years alone, and they adore her. Same thing, when you go to the Akkadian, the Sumerian, they were way more developed. They were more like recognizing the women, and they have their own laws. In the there is actually the second age of the Sumerian till we reach Hammurabi, and he put a beautiful law. Till now, part of it's I think the law in Paris, it's like expanded from the Hammurabi law. Now when we go after BC, the Islamic ruled Iraq for the period between within the 600s up to the 1570. That period, as I'm gonna give you, the woman really was highly respected. They have very good rights. They never ruled in politics directly. They were always behind the king, the mother of the king, the wife of the king, or the daughter who ruled, but behind, not up in the front. And that goes even for the Ottomani, which is between the 1570s up to the 1920, which is the beginning of Iraq, as a monarchy of Iraq, and then the Republic of Iraq. So we're gonna always, that's swinging. We find her a queen in Ur, a queen in the Babylonian, the second Babylonian kingdom. So that's the role of a woman in history. In the monarchy, which is the beginning of the Iraqi country as after the First World War, that era started really the period of, because the modern life reflected, we have universities, so women start to educated, get out of university with high educated degrees. So, and there's so many movement. I wrote about a movement that happened, it started the movement actually in Germany. In Germany, they have to see women's rights. That was in 1904. 1904, they started to recognize the women's rights in the early 20th century. Because before it's all conservative societies all over the planet. We can't say that women took place in the last century really in high position early in the 20th century. All the revolution happened after maybe the middle half of the century, after the World War II, because they needed the woman to work, so they start to get in life, and we took places all over in all sectors of life. Politics, one of them. In Iraq, because we said the period between 1920, beginning of the Iraqi monarchy, till the 1958, we had a very good women movement, but we didn't have them as politicians. The first, in 1958, the first cabinet in the modern Iraqi Republic, there were woman minister, Madame Deleni. She was a lawyer, she was a judge, and that woman, she actually participated in because she had a couple of languages, she was very good with them. So, and she was a fighter, and she was communist. So developed, and she did great as a minister in the first cabinet, the first Iraqi Republican in 1958. Time? 2 minutes? Yeah. So I'm gonna jump. From this, the problem is in Iraq, daily we have revolution. So that's why we are swinging up and down and up and down. But we kept with the it's really we have like revolutions, but the women development in the society continued because the rights are almost the same. Voting in Iraq never been before 1980. We didn't have any. Yeah. I don't know why we didn't have voted before, but this is the first time we voted. But we have so many ministers in Iraq, women ministers. And plus, I want to tell you something. When I was in Iraq in January this year, and I discovered that the mayor of Baghdad is a woman. And she is engineer, and she is doing a great job, really. Baghdad look way different when a woman in a position, because we know how to tidy up the house. Thank you.
Merci Madame Alquzweny. بدي أحكي كلمة بالعربي. من الصعب جدا المقارنة بين كيبيك وسوريا والعراق إذا عرفنا أنه كيبيك منذ اكتشافها هي 5 قرون، وإذا حكينا عن العراق وسوريا بلاد الرافدين وحضارات 10 إلى 12 ألف سنة، حضارات مش تاريخ، حضارات ما قبل الميلاد 12 ألف سنة. Donc c'est très difficile de comparer entre le Québec, la Syrie et l'Irak, étant donné que la région du Proche-Orient a vécu 10 000, même 12 000 ans de civilisation et d'histoire. Donc je laisse la parole à Madame Gulnar Mousa. Merci.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Gulnar Mousa. I'm a Canadian woman. I like to call myself as a Canadian woman, a Quebecer from Syrian origin. And I'm happy that I'm sitting next to our mayor. I live in Notre Dame de Grâce. She's our mayor, and I got the chance to meet Sue in the Intercultural Festival in NDG, where all different cultures meet and celebrate our diversity and multiculturalism. She was running for the mayor that time, and she invited me at her house, actually. I had a chance to meet Mayor Valérie Plante, and she was running still then also for the mayor of Montreal. It was a very, very interesting meeting, powerful woman, Valérie, so a group of women, interesting vibes, and really she won the elections, Valérie won the elections, and I feel very proud to have a mayor, woman mayor in my bureau. We have Kathleen Beale as an MNA. So it's like I live in a neighborhood where women have really an important role in the political life. I'm gonna actually talk a little bit, mention a story that Sheryl Sandberg, the CEO of Facebook, she's a very a big feminist, supportive of women's rights. Sheryl has this idea of, or concept of sit at the table. She was one time at a business trip in New York City. And before entering the meeting room, she saw a couple of women sitting on the side. So she goes to them and she invites them, why don't you come sit with us at the meeting table? Those couple of women say, no, we're good, we're gonna stay where we are, we're with you, but we're here. She said, come sit at the table. To Sheryl, like women kind of shy or fear that kind of level of participation. They prefer to be in the corner rather than sitting at the table. So sit at the table, that was Sheryl's advice to women. It's the mindset actually, it's a perception that women have. In another story, same lady Sheryl, an opening came in Google for a high management position. She knew a very, very skilled and talented woman and very suitable for this position. She was expecting her to apply and she did not. So she approached her and she said, how come? You're very suitable for this, you're like highly skilled and we need you in there. And she said, you know what, Sheryl, I'm getting married, I'm planning to get married and to have kids, and I might not be able to perform on that high management position. And then Sheryl tells her, you know what, take the position now, and once you get married and you have your children, then you'll think of what to do, with your life. So basically, it's a mindset that women kind of shy from participating in, whether it's on the corporate ladder or whether it's in public life or in political life. We have that mindset. It's us women. Like, I know it's the society, of course, is not helping, especially in where I come from, but generally speaking in the world, it's women are challenged when they are going in, as we call it, the glass ceiling. There's always this glass ceiling that women hit with while climbing up the ladder. I actually come from a country where Zenobia, the queen of Palmyran Empire, ruled in 240 BC, imagine. She was an actor, she led actually the revolution against the Roman Empire then, and she was very well known as a cultured monarch, and she fostered actually an intellectual environment where she always had poets, writers. So then, 240 BC, we had women ruling then. That's where I come from. Of course, between Zenobia and, I'm gonna jump to the early, probably 19th century or 20th century, because it's a long history between the both. Women, of course, were mostly, in Syria, were mostly involved with, they were kind of involved in humanitarian, fields, in charitable activities. Politics, not so. There was this woman, though, Nazek al-Abid, early in the 20th century, specifically 1920, in the 1920s. She was the first woman general in Syria. She was granted the honorary, she became the honorary president of the Syrian Arab Army in the 1920s. She was known as the Joan of Arc of the Arab world. She was an activist, and she was very involved with the women's rights and critic actually of the Ottoman and French colonialism. Let's not forget, Syria was a country, was colonized for most of its history, and women were obviously under that effect as well. She headed actually women's delegation to the King Crane Commission, and she was very well known for her courageous approach on that level. So in general, Syrian women played an important role in the 20th century in the revolutionary movement. They organized demonstrations and they participated in many things, but it wasn't until the beginning of the Arab Renaissance where voices began to encourage women to go more in public life and take their role in that field. Women were mostly motivated to be involved with literary salons, cultural activities. We had actually writers, we had poets. In Syria, we had women all over, you know, engineers, doctors, everything. But again, politics was a little bit kind of sensitive thing for a woman to get into it. Women were allowed actually to vote. They were given the right to vote partially started in 1949, and it was official in the 1953, where women were allowed to vote and to run for elections, not just to vote. So there come this courageous woman called Thuraya Al-Hafiz. She was also an activist. She had her literary salon. She was involved with so many women. She was helping the militants, and she was organizing demonstrations, financing demonstrations. She was the first courageous woman in the Syrian to run for the elections. She won with a majority actually in her riding then, and she became the first MP in the Syrian parliament in the 1953. So we had some participation, still very, very weak and very shy. If we come to the recent history, like obviously from the 1970s until now, women obviously advanced a little bit. You know, the problem with the participation of women of Syrian women in the political life is even though the constitution grants them the right to, you know, like they have equal rights with men and they have all of that, but still there's no specific quota. Like we don't have a specific quota for seats, you know, for women. And that's a big challenge. Here, like, we live in a country where I was so proud when our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, when he formed the cabinet, and it was announced that 50% of the ministers in his cabinet were women. That was like a big, to me, it was something amazing to come across. So early 1970s, women made only 2.8% of the total MPs. 2%, almost 3%, early 70s. Well, we were lucky that this percentage mounted up to 12% in 2003. 12% is still a very low percentage compared to the skills that Syrian women possess and their knowledge. Well, they worked hard, of course. Mostly their challenge, those MPs, was to help improve or to help adjust some of the unfair civil status laws that concern women, of course. That was their major challenge. If we look at the government, women became ministers, even though it was a little bit limited to the Ministry of Culture, the Ministry of Social Affairs and Employment, and the Ministry of Higher Education. So again, in fields where women can move free, like they're more accepted in the society. So culture, education, but it's not easy to see, for example, a Minister of Finance or a Minister of Economy. This is something dominated by male, and let's not forget, we live in a world where it's like dominated by men. So I have actually the statistics. Out of the 195 independent countries of the world, 5% of those countries are ruled by women. Now, we're talking now, not even ancient history. So Syria is part of that, you know, whole thing of like where women are challenged and they cannot easily contribute to the political life. So we had few ministers again. If we look on the municipal level, well, again, it was a very kind of weak participation. We had women participating in the municipal councils, with only 2% for women there. It rose to 3% in 2003. Still very weak. 3%, imagine. Like, I'm an architect. I know so many engineers, so many like women, you know, there, but we still shy from, getting and sit at the table, as Sheryl said, So within the executive office of municipalities, it was better with 12%. So there we go. Mayor, good luck. In the major cities, we never had a woman to become a mayor. In little towns or villages, we had 4 women that had the courage to go ahead and take that role. So to conclude, I'm not sure about the time, but I'm making it, okay. So just to conclude, there's many challenges, of course, facing women all over the world, Syria, Iraq, and Quebec. We're fortunate here, of course, where us women coming from a different background, we have a chance, as Sue said, we're all motivated, we're encouraged, at least to make our voices heard. And if you're interested in politics, I know there's so many programs that, whether the federal government or the municipal government or the provincial government are encouraging women to go ahead and participate. We're lucky, of course, to have that. In Syria, I think we need to work on the mindset of women to encourage them. Maybe this could be accomplished through professional training programs, coaching, mentorship program to expand the horizon of women and make them feel more fit in that political life in there. Thank you so much for your patience and for listening.
Can I steal 1 minute? Thank you. Thank you. Because since you remind me just now, 2003 we have a quota in Iraq. It's now women in parliament is like 22.5%. So we are in very good shape. And this election this year, actually, one woman is nominated herself to be the first president in Iraq. Honestly, I like her so much. I wish she's gonna be the new president for Iraq. She is a beautiful woman, Kurd, beautiful woman. I wish she's gonna be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I lost my moderator for the evening, so he had to leave, and he gave me the job to do.
Now we are 4 women.
Yeah, but I would like, because we have one person now in the room that is related to politics. I don't want you to put you on the spot, but maybe if we can have some words. What do you think of the role of women?
Yes. Yeah, not on the spot.
Firstly, I should respond to what Madame Montgomery has said when she has been told that the ambassador of Iraq is here without. She said he has nothing to do with foreign affairs in Ottawa. No, I have a lot to do.
No, I said you have nothing to do
invited
on
to-
Friday night.
Friday night.
Friday night. No. Yeah, that's what I said, not with foreign affairs.
For me, being here is very important for some reasons. Firstly, it is related to the Iraqi Community Center here. And I think they are doing a good job. So it's my duty to at least encourage them by attending here, firstly. And secondly, it is about women. We need also to encourage, not because of of being in Canada. No, I think it is very important for the women to take their role in the society. And third, to learn from you, to hear from you, to get to know you. So that's why I'm here. Actually, about the women in Iraq, about ancient civilizations has said a lot about that. And for the time being, I will speak about Iraq after 2003. So after the change, I should mention that, after the change, directly after the occupation of Iraq by the international coalition, people of Iraq came to the highest religious leader in Iraq, who is the supreme leader, we call him, Ayatollah Sayyid al-Sistani. And you know, it's a change made by the Western world, so the woman is there, the Western women and women. So they came to the Sayyid al-Sistani and asked him, can women get any public role in the new Iraq? He said there is no limitation. They can be minister, according to religion, I mean. or prime minister, or judges, or president of Iraq. So there is no limitation from religious perspective. In the reality, it is also imposed on Iraqi, new Iraq, is to have 25% in the Iraqi parliament to be women. Me, I'm against having this quota, this share, me personally. We should break all the barriers, demolish all the barriers, who prevent the women to take their role in the society, not giving them. It is not charitable. They do not need to be given something. It is their right to be there. So we need to break all the rules that preventing them to take their role in the society. And leave it to them. Yeah? So if they shy, their problem. If they are good, so please, then no one will prevent you. In the Iraqi government, we have ministers. So the Minister of Health is a woman. And the minister, this is maybe back to Madame Gulnar. Yeah. The Minister of Construction, Housing, and Municipalities is a woman in Iraq now.
Yeah. And the mayor is a woman.
Yeah, the mayor is a woman. She's a woman. So in Iraq, Iraqi mentality, there is no limitation.
No limitation.
The women themselves limiting of their role, and we should also, this is not only in Iraq, in all Muslim world, can I say, especially the Arab world, after the Islam has been used by the international players and some regionals as well, to be as a tool for hegemony and power and sucking the blood of the other nations. So they used Islam, and it has been used successfully by these international players. And some examples I can mention very quick is the defeat of the Soviet army in Afghanistan. The main role was for the Mujahideen, made by the U.S. intelligence, Saudis, and UAE, and Pakistan intelligence services. And then they have used them successfully as well in destroying Yugoslavia, and then in Chechnya and Pakistan, and recently in Iraq, Syria. The recent name for them is Daesh. They has nothing to do with the real Islam. They are just a tool being used by the international players to have more area, more control on the world. So this is the main danger. By using this, started a new era in the Muslim world of regression, retreat. So the Muslim women now, if you go to Afghanistan, for instance, even in Iraq, by the way, if you compare them now with 1950, you cannot imagine. You will never believe this is Iraqi woman, like Dr. Naziha Dulaymi, mentioned by Ban. She's a doctor, graduated in 1942 from the Royal College for Medicine in Baghdad, and 1952, she was co-founder and then the leader of the Women League, Iraqi Women League in Iraq. In 1959, she became the minister, the first minister ever in the Middle East and Arab countries and Iraq. You go now, you see another face for them. Who made this? Because of the politicians, because of the international players, start to use a new version of Islam. And thanks God, they call themselves Islamists. Islamists, we don't have, by the way, this word, this term is not mentioned in the terminology of Islam. We have Islam as a religion, we have Muslim for the people. So Islamists, we don't have Islamic. There is nothing within India. So, oh yeah, some pictures here. There's a trend in the social media. They show some photos of Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria before and now.
Yeah.
And so this has been imposed and used. So one of the main goal is to destroy the women, the role of the women. By destroying that, you destroy half of the society.
Yeah.
They started in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iraq.
Because they don't believe in borders. True.
Yeah,
That's the theory.
it's
That's the truth. They don't believe in borders. They think all the world is their border. That's the theory. If you don't have the border, so it's the rule of a man, because it's the army.
Yeah.
The army is the most important thing.
So I see it from the other point of view. So they want to destroy the societies, like drugs and like this stuff. Always comes with this occupation. So now Afghanistan is the main place to produce heroin, and before that there was never there for the occupation. So there is a kind of relation. Should be. There's a correlation. If reasoning, but there is a correlation. We should go back and if we wanted to see the reality. So I mean, they want to destroy the society by destroying the women, and they bring some text, some incidents, some kind of from our tradition, Islamic tradition, and translate it, interpret it in a very wrong way, and they impose it on the society. The first to destroy is the women, because they are vulnerable in the age of force. So this one, we should get rid of it, and we really need help of Canada and other countries to have honest, genuine help for the women.
So we'll take Sue to Baghdad?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we can
I'd
invite
love
her.
to go.
Why
By
not?
the way,
We're gonna take
they're
her.
doing a great job, and we are expecting in the next month to have a women delegation coming from Baghdad.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. To
So-
Côte-des-Neiges or to Ottawa?
Yeah, Ottawa.
Okay.
But we
Bring
need
them
them-
here, it's
You
more
can go for
interesting. Bring them here, it's way more interesting than Ottawa.
What's the name one day here?
They are invited by the IOG Institute on Governance here.
Okay.
It is in Ottawa, funded
Yeah.
by the Canadian Global Ministry, the GAC.
Global Affairs or whatever.
Ministry.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
they are,
Okay, great. Next month.
next month we are expecting them to have them here. It's, gender equality and this stuff, it's the
Yeah.
trend now even in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I hope that you can do really, through you, Madam. So I want to say, and I want to quote one of the recent statements from the Foreign Ministry of the USA.
Oh my God.
We don't want to hear about
No,
You
no.
know what's going on in the United
Please
States
go.
right now, it's just
So
like.
what I want to say, we need in our world the real help from you,
Mm.
the advanced, the stable, prosperous countries. You pay a lot, I'm sure about that. But be genuine by helping Iraqis
Yeah, yeah.
and others. So when 3 Latin American countries switched their allegiance from Taipei to Beijing,
Mhm.
from China, not from Taiwan. So this is, I'm quoting now, the US Department said, will now discuss, US will now discuss ways in which it can support strong, independent, democratic institutions and economies throughout Central America
The States?
and the States and the Caribbean. When was it? After these countries switched their allegiance, so they are like threatening by using these beautiful titles.
Yeah.
We need from the West to help us, really to help us. So women need to be empowered, really empowered.
Well, I
Thank you
think
very
with
much,
what's
and
going,
maybe I talked a lot. Thank you.
with what's going on in the United States now, it's the beginning of the revolution. Women are not gonna take it anymore, it's like, they're done.
So I'd like to open it up also for other people comment, questions, and do you need microphone to ask a question, you think?
No.
I have a question. For,
Yeah, I think the mic for everyone benefit.
for Sue Montgomery.
Uh-huh.
How do you like to be addressed? This is a gender thing. In Europe, it's Madame la Mère.
Yeah,
Ici, c'est la
Marquez, yeah.
Which one do you prefer?
Well, most people, I like to be called Sue. I mean, I don't really like titles, but I prefer Marquez. And we actually changed the sign on our office, said Bureau de la Mère, and now it's Bureau de la Marie. So it's gender neutral. And I'm also on the commission the President's Commission or the Speaker's Commission committee for City Hall, where we're changing all the language so it's gender neutral, which is hard in French, you know. But we try to, because everything, even the handbook I got, the guide I got when I was elected, it's a guide pour les élus, and it's like ELUS, like not feminine, and it was a suit, right? Like just this part of a suit, like a tie. So it's like, okay, we have to start here by changing the cover of this guide. So there's a lot of things that most people don't even see, you know, that needs to change.
Struck me.
Yeah.
The difference between, as I say, France,
yeah, in France they still say
Madame
Madame la Marie, Madame la Marie. Yeah.
And then here,
Yeah.
Madame la Marie.
Yeah, I like Marès. I think it's, I don't like Madame because I feel old.
Well,
you know, I feel like I've never, when people started going from Mademoiselle to Madame here in Quebec, I knew I'm old, I'm over.
It's 40, the age of 40 when you start.
I know, then you become invisible, right? So,
Thank you.
Excuse me, do you think there's any relation between the start of religions and the roles of women, especially before BC and after BC? Before BC, we have Ashtar, we have Zenobia, we have in Iskandria, we have many women in the leadership roles. But after BC, remind me if there was one. And until then the Islam came, and also all the time, all the stages, there were no women in the leadership, I mean, to run the army and the police or run the country. And as the philosopher said, women can think in many lines at the same time, but man think in one line at the same time. So my opinion is they will be very good to run the Interior Ministry, Army, because
the Interior Ministry, yeah, we'll run the world.
They think at the same time about many things.
Exactly, we can multitask.
So why the reason? Maybe this question for Ban.
Before and after religion?
No, it doesn't matter. It's not about religion. That's what I said. Because I told everybody,
history is not my piece of cake. When I wrote about women in politics especially, I noticed that thing. Maybe you weren't here when I said it. All the civilizations, when it started at the beginning, when they develop, their borders aren't fixed yet. So the most important thing is the army. So that era, it takes a man word. The minute you settle the border, the civilization is settled. Now you need 2 wings to fly. Never ever in all the civilization, the ancient or now. Look at Canada. They have their fights. They have their abuse for women. They have everything. That was before they set the border. Before, when they set the border, they have nothing to do. Now we have to concentrate inside. Women are not less than a man when they try to take their role. If they want anything, they're going to take it, believe you me. So now it's the era because borders are settled, society are developed, they fought for their rights, they take their freedom, nobody gave it to them. They struggled, really struggled, till lately, till the 70s, I think, right?
The women?
Yeah, here in Quebec.
Well, I would say the Quiet
50s?
Revolution, the
Yeah.
60s.
60s. So it's recently they took their rights. So the minute you set the border, without wars, without army, everything gonna settle down. Don't worry, women gonna take it over, and we're gonna take it. Don't worry.
I mean, there are others. The majority of the people here are Syrian and Iraqi, but I know that there are others. I know my neighbor is from Romania, right? And there's Palestine also. I don't know if there are other countries. Good to know also if you want to add from your own country, if you want. but I'll give anybody who wants to have a quick thing.
Thank you. My question is for the ex-mayor and the ex-journalist. I don't know if you're right.
Cut it, man. Ex-journalist, but she's a mayor.
I'm the mayor now.
You are the mayor now?
The mayor.
Okay, so
Yeah.
from...
I have 3 years to maybe be the ex-mayor. We'll see how the next election
We're gonna keep you, don't worry. I'm moving
From
there.
a woman point of view, in your position, and you as an ex-journalist writing against a politician, would you see yourself one day writing in the opinion column that the city hall is enough, it's enough for the city hall to be run by a politician? It should be run by a CEO, like a multinational company or a bank or a central bank. So,
Would I write that?
yeah.
No. I don't think it's a perfect system at all, but I think, I mean, the worst part of my job is city council. I hate it. To me, it just seems like a waste of time. It's like 2 days out of my life I will never get back every month. It starts at 1 o'clock on Monday, it goes till 10 o'clock at night, then we're back at 9:30, and we go till 10 o'clock at night. And it's mostly, it takes that long because it's men who stand up and never shut up. Blah, 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 blah. And it's just, so I said in my last meeting about the, and you know, when women stand up, they make their point, they sit down. Like, you don't have to go over and over and blah, 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 and nobody's listening to them except themselves, right? So it's like this ego, this fight for ego, and look at me, I'm great. I don't get it. So, and I find that it's, for the average citizen, it's not accessible. Like, nobody wants to listen to them. Like, they're not saying anything. So, I've brought up in the committee of the President's Committee, I don't even know what it's called, La Commission de la Présidence. We meet every month and we talk about things that need, you know, how city council is run. So I said, I'm gonna start knitting in city council because I can't stand, like, I just sit there, like, I have to pretend to look interested because sit behind the mayor, so I'm always on the camera, so I have to look like I'm interested, but meanwhile, I just want to. So I said, I'm gonna start knitting because I want to do something constructive, like make socks for the homeless or something. And the men said, oh, you can't do that. Like, what would the media say? And I said, I would defend it. I would tell the media, I'm doing this because it's constructive. What everyone else is doing here is not constructive. So I will knit, like, in protest, and until they stop talking so much. So, but it was interesting that the men, their reaction was, oh, knitting is something trivial. You know, it's something women do. Whereas what they do is so important, talking about nothing. Or everybody's on their computer, like on Facebook, or they're not paying attention either. But at least I would be making something or doing something. So it's kind of, like, I feel like I'm a bit of a rebel in there because I'm very critical about it. I just think we could get this meeting done in a few hours.
Exactly. This is
Like,
what I'm saying.
why are you dragging it out? Like, and they have time limits. They're only allowed to talk for 20 minutes. But who can listen to anyone talk for 20 minutes? Like, nobody.
Is it only men on
Yeah.
the council?
No, it's all women. Over half and half.
Over half and half.
But it's mostly the men who get up and like to hear themselves. They think they're in a Shakespearean play or something. But I'm so important, listen to me. And I just think it's pointless. Like,
This is what I'm saying. So.
yeah. So no, I don't think.
This?
I think we need to change the rules, and that's why I'm on this committee, to say, let's reduce the amount of time that you get to talk. Like, you don't need to talk for 20 minutes about something. You can make your point in 5 minutes, or 2, you know, but you give them, they will fill as much time as you give them.
It's an alarm, but it will go.
Are we, is the building on fire?
No, that's it.
So, anyway, I just, I think it's democratic. Like, if you have a business running, you're not elected. Like, you want people who, You want citizens to be able to elect their
But
representatives.
excuse me, it's a very bizarre situation. You cannot enforce the time for each.
Yes, there is a time, but it's like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
I
reduce
know,
it.
And there's many who like to talk for 20
So
minutes.
reduce the time.
My suggestion is reduce it to 5 minutes. And they say, oh, well, that's not democratic. And I'm like, it's efficient. And citizens would pay more attention if it were more interesting. You know, and it's kind of like this confrontational stuff too. We don't do that. And I find it very interesting. In my borough council, I'm the mayor, and then there are 5 councillors and 2 like opposition. And these 2 men that are opposition, like when I see them on a daily basis, and they're super nice to me and normal, we get into this situation and they say things and they're arguing and they're insulting me, and I'm like, what? Like, I thought we were friends. Like, I don't know how to play that game. I do not know how to play that game, nor do I want to play that game. Yeah, but I want to change politics. I want it to be
normal,
where we work together.
Real.
We're all on the same boat.
So
Like, we want to fix people's lives, change people's lives for the better, right? We don't, like, I don't need this job. I want this job. And that's the problem. Too many politicians do it because of the job. They want the job, or they want the power, the title.
So I have another question.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a very, very short thing about Romania, and this is because it's this year that there are 100 years since a woman negotiated the base borders of Romania.
Wow.
So it's going to be an exhibition here, as far as I know, because our community center has meetings here.
Here?
Place. Yes.
Okay.
So Queen Mary negotiated the borders and of today's Romania in 1918. The thing, I mean, the anecdote that I would like to tell you is apparently she did this in Paris, and she fought for the idea of having larger territories, and she negotiated, and she was the diplomat in chief, although her husband was the king. At some point, she negotiated with a French diplomat whose nickname was Tiger.
Oh.
So she was the Tiger. This Tiger, this man, told her, Madame, mais vous voulez the lion's part, the lion's share, you know, why are you? And he said, well, this is the only thing I can do with a tiger. So
Oh, good one. That's good. I like that.
I do have a question for Sue.
Wasn't, but she
Oh, yeah?
she's
Oh.
making the.
So would like to know, how do you see, how do you see women, Canadian women from Syrian, Iraqi, any background, originally from a different background, participating or taking part in politics in Quebec? Do you see any future for women?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
How can they be encouraged? How can they be motivated to take that role? Like that stigma of being an immigrant, you're coming from a different culture. It's kind of difficult for these women already in their countries to take part in politics. So how about this is a new country for them? So can you tell us a bit about this?
Well, I'm an immigrant to Quebec from Ontario. So, no, it's true. Like many, I'm sure all of you have had that experience where you speak French, and then the Quebecers switch to English because, you don't speak French. So I knew I had become a Quebecer when people stopped switching to English. So I thought I've made it. But it's still, they can't pronounce my name, so I'm not really a Quebecer. But no, I love Montreal. I've been here since 1986, and it's a great. It's a great city. I think it's the best city in Canada. I've lived in many cities in the country, and I've also traveled a lot. I've never, unfortunately, been to Syria or Iraq, but on my to-do list. I think there's a saying that I love, and it's like, no one is going to give you power. That's what, you just take it. Women need to learn that. Like, they're not going to hand it to you. And I don't agree with you about parity. I think we have to have parity. We had it in our party. Because if you don't have parity, you're not going to make the effort to recruit women or women from different minorities, or you really have to make an effort to go out and get those people, because they're not going to step up like men will. Also, if you have parity, if you don't have parity, it'll just be white guys. Like, white guys will step up because they think that they're good at this even if they're not, right? Whereas women will always say, I'm not very good at that. We doubt ourselves, we don't think we're good. But don't get me wrong, like, you have to have a thick skin to do this. It's not easy. People are super mean. Like, all of a sudden you become a politician and you're no longer a human being. Like, you're just like, and you're to blame for everything. Like, we've never had snow in Côte-de-Neige NDG until I got elected, apparently.
Yeah, I know that's.
Yeah, it was like, we've never had so much snow. And actually, I think every year we have snow, but so I think the good thing, like, get to know the parties. Like, we have a party system in our city, so get to know, like, Projet Montreal and I forget what the other party's called, the opposition party. And, get to know their platforms and understand what they're about, come to some of the conferences, get to know people who are in power now, and, just say you're interested. Like, step up. And I have a funny story about trying to get diversity into my office, because I wanted to hire women and I wanted to hire women from minorities. So I was interviewing for Soutien aux élus. So this woman showed up with a hijab, and I'm like, yes! Right? So anyway, and she was also fantastic. I mean, she has her master's from U of M, she has a BA in urban planning, she's bilingual or trilingual, she's from Tunisia. Well, she was born in St. Lam. No, she was born in Saint Laurent, I think. But anyway, but she wears hijab, so I thought, yes. So now she says, you know what, Sue, I think I'm going to take off my scarf, because it's just too hard. I get so much, there's so many racist comments and so on. I said, no, you're not allowed. You are going to wear that scarf. Because I want diversity. No, but also, the good thing about it is she comes with me to a lot of events. And I find it really interesting, because I introduce her as my, Shaima works with me, but people, how they react to her really bugs me. Like, she's like a nobody, like they have these assumptions that she, but I say, like, Shaima is amazing, she's got her master's, she's like helping us so much, she's super good with technology, doing maps and everything. And so it's that's why we need diversity, is to show the public that we're all capable. We're all capable to do a job, whatever that may be, but we're all human beings. We all have talents, we all have skills, and we all should have a crack at what we want to do. So I'm trying to bring more diversity into my office. We only have one guy, but the rest are women. So my advice is just step up, just do it, and that's what I say to my daughter every day. Do something that scares you, like just scares you, Step out of your comfort zone. It's not going to be easy. There'll be days where I've had days where I've gone home to my husband and said, thanks a lot, like, thanks for getting me into this. I say, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? But it's a great, it's good to challenge yourself, and it's good to be an example to other women too, and other young girls. Like, I have young girls come to my office, and I talk to them about politics, because for so so many of us, that has been an area that's been out of bounds, you know, and it's good to show them that they can do it, that they're role model, to be their role model.
I'm gonna have one question, and then maybe we'll have like, because
Yes.
wasn't
Yes.
we forget the very
Yes.
nice, so I'm gonna be the last comment, and then we'll.
So this is the conclusion and final remarks. Thank you very much, Gulnar and Dan, for your speeches about Syria and Iraq, and big thank you to Sue for what you are doing.
Pleasure.
And I have a small comment about what you do. The role you are doing right now is really great, and to have this mentality with some executive position within the city puts more responsibility on your shoulder. And I think humbly that you need to really make advantage and make use of this like term that you have, and try to establish a system to include the minorities, not only you personally, once you are out of office, then everything goes back to its original status. So that puts more responsibility of, and we need to plan it really well, so that the next mayor or like whether male or female can really benefit from the diversity we have in the city.
Yeah,
I
sure.
really appreciate if you consider listening, and Iraqi Community Center, and I think everybody here will be behind you to be a good representative of the city. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ambassador, can I invite her to Iraq in order maybe we can do something mutual between Baghdad and here.
I'd love to go.
Anytime.
Thank you for the audience, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you for coming.
Thank
and
you
now
for
I
coming.
invite you to taste some the great creation of wasan, food from different parts of Iraq and Syria.
And Quebec.
That's the main reason I want to go, is because I think it's so when are you going to run? Huh? 3 years. 3 years.
I already know
Oh, are you? Oh, yeah.
أنا